Hey guys, Ken Smith Fishing. The dirtiest you've probably ever seen my desk. We got 3 filming projects going on and work's busy. So this is the final, a much anticipated restart of the 10 boat search. And we're going to start the 10 boat search looking at the second boat will be the AVX, and we're looking at the 1980. Now this is the boat that's shaped more like a bass boat. We'll talk more about that in just a second. But this is a I thought this would be the easiest way to do it. Just put some graphics over it to start. It's a 1910 foot boat. It's got a 95-inch beam, so it's a big boat, almost a 20-foot boat. Its max horsepower is 150 horse, 32-gallon fuel tank, and then it'll hold a 7-foot 10-inch rod in the left-hand box, the port box, and then, sorry I lost my graphic there. It'll hold a great big rod, an 8.6 down that center box. I didn't capture great footage of this, so I wanted to put this cutout in. That shows you kind of what those rod boxes really look at. I've just highlighted that section. You can get a lot of rods in this boat for an aluminum boat. Now, there's 2 different design shapes of boat. The boat on the left, the AVX1980, is what they call a crappie boat. And by the way, I'd really like to look at one of these boats too. The 1980 on the right is the boat that we actually looked at. I guess I should say port side and starboard side, but this is the boat we actually looked at, the 1980 boat. And what you'll find is the crappie boat is the more traditional flat bottom style of a hull. And then on the AVX, they built it kind of with the bow rise and the shape and the chines, basically of a glass boat, and it results in a very glass boat feeling ride. The boat's really well foamed. We'll talk more about that in future videos, and I'm not going to get way into the build, but they have made some significant changes to this boat. Starting in August of last year, they upgraded the aluminum thickness from 0.100 to 0.125. I think that's 100 to 125 gauge is how you actually say that technically. But they increased the thickness in the hull on this boat, and they also, through the extrusion process, changed how they build the boat. So I think from talking to the regional Vexus rep, it's pretty fair to say they feel like they've evolved in their construction process and have gotten better in the construction process. And they've also added some thickness to the hull, resulting in probably a stronger, they didn't say this, but I would have to assume, in a stronger hull for boats built basically starting about 10 months ago going forward than boats they were building prior to that time. This is a really nice overhead of this boat I stuck in here because, as you can see, it's well appointed. The 2 boxes up front. Now the way you see Scott's running his, he's running that center box as his rod box. And then he's got tackle on the port side in that box, tackle on the starboard side, and that little box right in front of the driver's console is actually an ice chest. Then down there on the floor, another day style box. I had a box like that in my Ranger that actually I used as my trash box, just to keep line and plastic out of the way. And then 2 big boxes on the back deck. This boat has a lot of storage, and you'll see, I'm going to talk about it. It appears, other than the hinges, well, let me remind myself to talk about that. So the boxes appear very watertight, but they do have traditional opening hinges, handles, if you will, that my experience tells me you'll get some leakage through those. You know, that's why Basscat came up with what they did in the new style hinge, where there's no hole for any kind of a lock or hinge in the box that could leak. It's all outside where it could leak into the box. This has more of a traditional bass boat style of a lock, excuse me, of a locking mechanism. And then this is called a hybrid boat, which means it's mostly a 10 boat, but a really big part of it that's fiberglass is the dash, and it's got a beautiful dash. I'm really impressed with the boat. I'm not going to hide anything here, but it has it's got a nicer dash than a lot of the glass boats we looked at last year. They've done a really nice job. They get how to make a boat look pretty, and they're doing it with this boat. So that's kind of a real quick overview. Let's jump into our on the water footage, and thanks to Scott for letting me take his boat out, and here we go, guys. All right, boys and girls, welcome to Lake Louisville. I'm here with my buddy Scott Novotny, who has this, I gotta tell you, really, really beautiful Lexus AVX1980. Now I believe that's a 19-foot, 8-inch boat. It is, you know, it's a Vexus, and it's a more expensive boat. He's got a 150 Pro XS on it. It is really tricked out. It's all their make of SeaArk throughout the boat. I would call it a modified V. Now I don't know what Vexus calls that front end on that boat, but it's obviously got some V to it and got a little bit of flat bottom feel to it as well. But man, it is just a really beautiful boat. I gotta tell you. When I walked up and looked at it, I told Scott, I said, that is not your dad's aluminum boat, because it is not your dad's aluminum boat. I will check the dimensions on the boat and put them at the bottom there so you guys can see that. Guys, now obviously Scott has added some really nice features to this boat, including a live scope, a 360 and a live scope steering system, and we'll talk a little bit more about what he's got in the boat. But I did want to note here that it appears, and Scott believes, that the single axle is standard in this boat, and he did upgrade the boat, or the way the boat sat when he found it was upgraded to a tandem axle trailer. So I just wanted to add that there, guys. And we're going to measure the decks in it just since we're here to see what the actual fishable space is. It looks to have a pretty narrow front deck compared to some of the other ones because it's got that V, but I would imagine it's going to be a little better ride too. You can see he's got it set up real nice. He's got Humminbird 9s. That says Helix 8, but I believe they're 9s. I guess that's an 8-inch screen. And then he's got a Helix and a live scope and a brand new live scope up front. Oh, he's also got a live scope foot pedal. I've not seen one of those live in action, so we'll check that out today. This boat is really rigged out nicely. Okay, so once again I got music playing, this time off a kayak, so I'm going to dub this. So back deck at the seat hole, really big back deck, measuring at 86 inches. And then the front deck is going to measure out at just over 59, almost 60 inches, which again looked really small to me, but I'm going to explore with you here in a second. We're going to do some comparison, and I'm going to talk about why I believe it visually looks smaller than what it actually is compared to some glass boats we looked at. So we've established in the past you guys are very much like me in that you like comparing things, and this was a favorite grid from the fiberglass boat search. And I suspect as you guys were watching me measure that boat, exactly as I was, you were curious how that stacked up against all those glass boats we measured. So I went back and dug out the one of the last grids that we did. And what I'll say here, so that boat at the front deck at 60 inches is bigger than the Puma Hybrid by 3 inches, by the Bullet by 8 inches, and the Allison by 5 inches. It's a little on the small side compared to all the rest of them. Now you have the 520L and the Vexus VX20 both over 70 inches, but you know, not substantially smaller than, for example, it's really easy to see, you know, Phoenix is out there at 65 inches. You know, the Ballistic at 62 inches. The Blazer at 63. Everybody's familiar with the Ranger, my last one, the 521C at 66. So that's a really wide boat. And so I got to scratching my head why it looked so narrow on the front end. Well, come to find out, that back deck at 86 inches is 5 inches more fishing space than any of the glass boats. And if you think about it, it makes sense. The gunnel on a glass boat is several inches wide on both sides, and on the metal boat, it's quite a bit smaller. So really what you do is you have, especially looking at it from the top, something of an optical illusion in that the back deck is so wide, it makes that front deck look really small. And you guys are going to see here in a minute, when we get out on the water and fish out of this boat a little bit, this boat is so we get side by side in the boat, and you'll see there's plenty of room for two guys to fish side by side in this boat, whether you're bass fishing or crappie fishing or doing anything else. One other thing I would note here that I'm going to cover now, because I don't know that I'll remember to cover it anywhere else. This boat reportedly will float in 8 inches of water. And most glass boats are 12 to 15 inches of water from the research I've done. So this boat will float, and by the way, we're going to see that in most all the metal boats, but this boat, even being that modified V, that more traditional bass boat shape, apparently is a really, really good skinny water fishing boat. So I do not know the weight. I'm going to dig around a little bit and see if I can find a weight, and if I can, I'll add it in. But I don't think, Vexus doesn't publish it on their glass boats, so I suspect they won't publish it on this boat either. Guys, I did go ahead and dig around. I cannot find it anywhere. It's not on the website. So weight's not published on the boat. It's going to probably be a little heavier than most metal boats because of foam insulation they've got in this boat, and you'll hear that on the ride. The other thing that is of note that I spotted on the website as I was looking for the weight, they list this boat on the trailer with the trailer open, so flipping the tongue on the trailer, at 22 feet 6 inches. So those of you who are concerned about garage space, that's what they're telling us on the website, is 22 feet 6 inches. And you can see, I mean, it does not appear any expense is spared in this boat. You got nice pull-out rod decks. We'll check out the interior when we get in it, but from here it's got nice seats. I mean, it's, as I said, it is not your dad's metal boat. We're going to check it out. So one of the things we talked about is a lot of these boats, it's really hard to get in. You see that one's set up better. It's a really nice trailer up under the boat, but really easy to mount the boat. Well thought out there, Vexus boys and girls. Check out the interior compartments as he's putting us in. Okay, so we've got lifts, 5, 10 rod tubes in there. Obviously room to get more rods than 10. He's got his net stored right there. Aluminum box lids, good locks. You see they use the raised rubber to keep the boxes dry. Oh, more rod storage, look at that. So 4 more on this side. Lots and lots of storage, and I'm gonna say this is, I've actually looked at a couple of boats that I've not done reviews on yet. This is gonna be a drier setup than a lot of these are. Carpet inside the boxes. Nice chest right there. Now I'm curious about that. What is this box right here? Oh, that's just a little storage box, a little day box. That's handy. Did the rod box have carpet in the bottom? Carpeted in the bottom of the box too. I'm gonna get back here and drive this thing. Yep. Really nice basic setup. Analog gauges, I like. A trim you can actually see through the wheel. Fuel gauge, miles per hour, RPMs, water pressure. Traditional key start. Sounds like a Mercury 4-stroke to me. So stay here?
So just stay on the end of the dock or on the right hand side.
Got it. Very traditional setup, pretty roomy. I'm not a big heavy guy, but I'm not a little guy either. That's 6'2", 195 sitting there, so there's some space in the boat. Oh, I love the sound of that little Mercury. Just very, very nice. Got nice space right there. I would imagine you could substitute a third seat there. I'm not sure about that. Not huge live wells, kind of what we've come to expect in the metal boats we're reviewing. Certainly not the live well system we saw in the ooh, that's hot, in the Vexus glass boat. So I think it's about 95 out here. So I think if you go to grab something metal today, Sorry about that. I think you got to grab something metal today. It's going to leave a mark.